For my 29th birthday, I didn't get a party. I got a confession. I was sitting across from my parents, Robert and Helen, in their obsessively tidy living room. My mother didn't wear an ounce of guilt on her face. In fact, she looked triumphant. "We have wonderful news, Clara," she announced, meticulously smoothing a non-existent wrinkle from her pants. "We've utilized your savings, all $2.9 million. It was transferred to Chloe's business account first thing this morning." My father, pouring himself a generous measure of whiskey, didn't bother to meet my eyes. "It's for the good of the family, Clara. You have no need for that kind of money just sitting there. You're not married, you have a good career, and your sister, she needs this opportunity." They both stared at me, waiting for the explosion. They expected the tears, the frantic screaming. I'd spent a lifetime crying over their injustices, cleaning up their disasters, only to be branded ungrateful. But this time was different. I didn't cry. I took a slow sip of water and let a small smile touch my lips. They had no idea the account they had just plundered was a carefully constructed trap. They were blissfully unaware that every single dollar they stole was digitally marked. In precisely 3 minutes, the advanced fraud alerts I had put in place years ago would set in motion a full-scale federal investigation. Happy birthday to me, I thought. Before we get into the details, do me a favor and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and let me know in the comments, where are you tuning in from today? I was raised in a house that was a masterpiece of suburban perfection from the outside. We had the perfectly striped lawn, the grand white columns framing the porch, and the latest luxury cars gleaming in the driveway. My father, Robert, was a well-regarded business consultant. My mother, Helen, sat on the board of every prestigious charity in town. To our neighbors, we were the Vances, a flawless portrait of the American dream. But once you stepped inside, the air was different. It was thin, suffocating. Breathing was a conscious effort in that house. In the Vance family, love was never a given. It wasn't something you received just for existing. Love was a commodity. You had to earn it, and the price fluctuated daily. Our family operated on a simple script with 2 distinct roles. My sister, Chloe, was cast as the leading lady, and I was the backstage crew. Chloe was 2 years my junior. From the day she was born, she became the sun around which my parents' world revolved. She was vivacious, charming, and relentlessly demanding. If Chloe desired a new doll, it was hers. If Chloe shattered an heirloom vase, it was an unfortunate accident. If Chloe flunked an exam, the teacher was clearly incompetent. I was her opposite. I was quiet, observant. And as the elder daughter, I was implicitly expected to be the grown-up. I vividly remember my 10th birthday. I had asked for one thing, a bicycle. For months, I had carefully cut out pictures from magazines and left them scattered on the kitchen island. On my birthday morning, I raced downstairs, my heart hammering against my ribs. And there, in the middle of the living room, was a bike. It was a beautiful shade of lavender with glittering pink tassels. But it wasn't for me. "Chloe needs to learn to ride as well," my mother said, her smile fixed on Chloe as she eagerly climbed onto the seat. "We bought you a helmet, Clara. You can teach her. Being a big sister comes with responsibility." I just stood there, clutching a cheap plastic helmet, watching my sister peddle my dream gift across the Persian rug. My father glanced up from his newspaper. "Don't look so sulky, Clara. Envy is an unattractive quality. You should be happy for your sister." That was the core lesson I learned at 10. My desires were irrelevant. My purpose was to support and enable Chloe's happiness. As we grew into teenagers, the dynamic just got more expensive. The fights shifted from toys to life decisions. When I was 16, I got a job bussing tables at a local diner. I worked every night and weekend, stashing every dollar I earned in a shoebox hidden under my bed. I was saving for a used car. I was saving for a taste of freedom. Chloe, at 14, was saving for nothing. She just wanted designer handbags. One afternoon, I came home from school to find my shoebox sitting on my bed, wide open and completely empty. I ran downstairs, a knot of panic tightening in my throat. "Mom, Dad, I think someone broke into my room." My mother was in the kitchen, meticulously arranging groceries. Chloe was perched on a stool, swinging her legs, a brand new designer jacket slung over her shoulders. "Calm yourself, Clara," Mom said, her back still to me. "We had to borrow it." "Borrow it?" I stammered. "That was over $600. I worked all summer for that money." "Chloe has an important social function," Dad explained, walking in from the garage. "Appearances are important, Clara. You don't have any immediate need for that cash. We'll pay you back." They never did. They never paid me back for the car fund. They never paid me back for the bail money when Chloe was caught shoplifting at 19. They never paid me back for the emergency loan I had to give when Dad's risky investment went south. They called it borrowing. In my mind, it was theft. But the financial loss wasn't the most damaging part. It was the psychological warfare. If I dared ask for my money back, I was selfish. If I shed a tear in frustration, I was being overly dramatic. If I attempted to set a simple boundary, I was accused of trying to tear the family apart. "Family helps family," my father would thunder, his face turning a blotchy red. "You are nothing without us, Clara. We provide the roof over your head. We feed you. You owe us." For a long, long time, I actually believed them. I thought I was the villain. I thought I was a greedy, ungrateful person for wanting to keep the money I had earned with my own hands. So I just worked harder. I became laser-focused on achieving total financial independence. I got into university on a full academic scholarship because I knew they wouldn't contribute a dime to my education. Chloe, meanwhile, was sent to an exclusive private arts college that cost $60,000 a year. My parents covered her tuition, her chic apartment, her car, and her lavish spring break vacations. I juggled 3 part-time jobs in college. I lived on instant ramen. I spent my nights studying in the campus library until they shut the lights off. I graduated at the top of my class with a degree in computer science. Chloe dropped out after 2 years, claiming it was too stressful. My parents threw her a massive welcome home party. When I graduated, they sent me a generic greeting card. It wasn't even signed by hand. It was stamped with their family crest. After college, I secured a position at a major financial tech company. I was good at my job. I designed and implemented security systems for large banks. I had a knack for recognizing patterns. I knew how to identify a thief because I'd been living with 3 of them my entire life. I started earning real money, serious money, and that's when the sharks began to circle. My parents suddenly developed a keen interest in my life again. They started inviting me to dinner. They'd ask casually about my performance bonuses. They wanted to know which bank I used. "We're so incredibly proud of you, Clara," my mother would coo, pouring me a glass of expensive wine. "You should really let your father help manage your portfolio. He has a great feel for the market." I knew better. I always politely declined. I kept my finances on absolute lockdown. I lived in a simple, modest apartment. I drove a 10-year-old Honda. My clothes were neat but unremarkable. They had no idea I was saving nearly 80% of my income. They had no idea I'd become a millionaire by the age of 26. They had no idea I was constructing a financial fortress to shield myself from them. But they were nothing if not persistent. Chloe would launch a new business venture every 6 months, a bespoke jewelry line, a dog walking application, a life coaching service. Each one failed spectacularly, and with every failure, my parents would bail her out. About 6 months before my 29th birthday, my father cornered me. "Chloe has a truly brilliant idea," he began, "a high-end boutique fashion brand, but she requires startup capital. We've exhausted our liquid assets, Clara. We need you to co-sign a business loan." "No," I said, the word leaving my mouth before I could even think. "Excuse me?" His face darkened to a shade of purple. "No, I will not co-sign. Chloe has never seen a project through to completion in her entire life." He slammed his fist on the dining table, rattling the silverware. "She is your sister. She deserves a real chance. You have all this money just sitting in an account doing nothing. You are hoarding wealth while your own family struggles." "I am not hoarding it," I said, my voice shaking slightly. "I am saving it for my future. Your future is this family," he screamed. That was the moment. The final piece clicked into place. I looked at his enraged face. I looked at my mother, who had begun weeping silently on cue, a classic manipulation tactic. I looked at Chloe, who was just scrolling on her phone, utterly bored, waiting for the check to be written. I knew they would never stop. I knew that one day they would stop asking and they would simply take. They knew my social security number. They had copies of my birth certificate. They knew my mother's maiden name. They held the answers to every security question a bank could possibly ask because they were the architects of my history. I realized I was in grave danger. If I just moved the money and hid it, they would hunt for it. They would harass me, guilt-trip me, show up at my office. They would never give up. I had to end it for good. I needed to let them think they had won so they would bring about their own destruction. That very night, I went home and started building the trap. I used every bit of my professional knowledge of banking security. I opened a new high-yield savings account at the very bank my parents used. I transferred my entire life savings, all $2.9 million, into it. But this was no ordinary account. I worked directly with the bank's internal fraud division to establish a unique protocol. I had the account officially flagged as a high-risk asset. Then I set the trigger. Any single transfer over $10,000 initiated by a third party would not be blocked. It would be allowed to go through. But the instant it did, the system would immediately tag the transaction as unauthorized wire fraud and dispatch a comprehensive packet of digital evidence, every keystroke, every IP address, every device signature, directly to the IRS and the FBI's Financial Crimes Unit. I had baited the perfect hook. I started leaving my bank statements on the coffee table when they visited. I accidentally left my laptop open to the account summary page. I made sure they saw the balance. I made sure the account number was visible. For 3 long years, I waited. I watched their greed fester. I saw the growing desperation in my father's eyes as his own debt spiraled out of control. I saw the raw envy in Chloe's. And finally, on my 29th birthday, they took the bait. They forged my signature. They used my old guessable passwords. They gained access to the account and drained it to the last cent. So, sitting there in their perfect living room, listening to them deliver their good news, I wasn't their victim anymore. I was the executioner. And they had just willingly pulled the lever on themselves. I walked out of their house at precisely 8 p.m. The evening air was thick and humid, typical for that time of year, but to me, it felt sharp and clean. I slid into my car, my hands perfectly steady on the steering wheel. I glanced in the rearview mirror. The lights of the house were blazing. I could picture the scene inside. Dad would be pouring a second celebratory drink, toasting his own cleverness. Mom was probably already browsing online real estate for a chic studio space for Chloe's brand. And Chloe was likely already shopping online, spending money she didn't have. They were celebrating their victory, believing they now had $2.9 million in Chloe's newly formed business account. I drove away slowly, keeping the radio off. I wanted to absorb the silence. Another person in my situation would be having a panic attack. They'd be speeding to the nearest police station. But I knew the law. I understood the slow, grinding gears of bureaucracy. Speed was not the objective. Irreversibility was. The transfer had been initiated on a Friday afternoon, just before the close of business. The banks were now closed for the weekend. On their end, the wire transfer would show as pending, but the funds would appear to be available. It was a digital ghost, a mirage of wealth. But on Monday morning, in less than 72 hours, the automated system I had built would activate. The algorithm would analyze the transaction data, the IP address of the transfer, which would trace back to my parents' home, the device ID, which would match my father's iPad, the digital signature, a clumsy forgery of my own. And because the sum was well over the federal threshold for mandatory reporting, the system wouldn't just freeze the money, it would freeze them. I pulled into the parking lot of my apartment building. My phone buzzed. It was a text from my mother. "Don't be upset, sweetie. We truly are doing this for you. You'll thank us one day when Chloe is a huge success. We love you. Happy birthday." I stared at the screen. The lowercase happy birthday felt like a final, dismissive flick. They couldn't even be bothered to capitalize the day I came into the world. I didn't reply. I just deleted the entire message thread. I went up to my quiet apartment. It was mine. I had paid for every single thing in it, every piece of furniture, every book on the shelf, every spoon in the drawer. I sat down at my computer and logged into my secure private server, and there it was. Account status flagged, transaction ID 9920-ATXC-ALERT, destination Chloe Vance, LLC, amount $2,942,000. The status indicator was blinking a soft, patient yellow. Pending. All I had to do was wait for it to turn red. The next 2 days were the most surreal form of torture imaginable. I had to act as if everything was perfectly normal. On Saturday, I went into the office. I didn't need to, but the distraction was necessary. My coworker Leo was there, catching up on a project. Leo was the only person at work who had an inkling about my family situation. He knew I never went home for holidays. He knew I tensed up whenever voices were raised nearby. "Hey," he said, spinning his chair to face me. "Happy belated birthday. Do anything fun?" I sat down at my desk, the glow of the monitors washing over my face. I went to my parents' house. Leo grimaced sympathetically. "Ouch. How was the torture chamber this time?" "Expensive," I said flatly. He chuckled, assuming I was talking about the cost of a gift or dinner. "Well, at least it's done. You survived another year." I looked at him. Leo was a kind person, with warm eyes and perpetually messy brown hair. He came from a loud, loving family that organized potlucks and had sprawling group chats. He could never comprehend that my parents had just committed a federal crime against me. "Yeah," I said, my voice hollow. "It's over." I worked for 10 hours straight, writing code until my eyes felt raw. I needed to feel a sense of control. I needed a reminder that I was skilled at something other than being a doormat. On Sunday, the texts from Chloe started. "Hey sis, looking at some amazing office spaces downtown. Can't wait to show you." A few hours later, Dad says we should invest some of the capital in crypto. Thoughts? Then, "Are you ignoring me? Don't be a brat, Clara." They were already spending the money in their heads, redecorating their lives with the fruits of my labor. I lay on my couch, watching the ceiling fan spin in lazy circles. For a moment, a wave of sickening guilt washed over me. It was a conditioned response, the result of years of brainwashing. A tiny voice in my head whispered, "Maybe this is too much. Maybe you should just call the bank and stop it. They are your parents. If you let this happen, they could go to jail." I closed my eyes and forced myself to remember. I remembered being 22, lying in a hospital bed after an emergency appendectomy. I had called my mother, my voice weak from anesthesia. "I need a ride home from the hospital." "Oh, Clara," she had sighed dramatically. "Chloe has her dance recital tonight. We simply can't miss it. Just get an Uber." I had taken an Uber home, bleeding through my bandages and utterly alone, while they sat in an auditorium cheering for Chloe. I opened my eyes. The guilt evaporated. They wouldn't care if I lived or died, as long as I remained useful. I was done being useful. Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. I sat in front of my computer, a glass of wine in hand, watching the digital clock on the screen. 11:59:58, 11:59:59, 000000, Monday morning. On the screen, the blinking yellow light flashed twice, then turned a solid, undeniable red. Status: fraud confirmed. Action: lockdown. Report sent. FBI, FINCEN. The trap had snapped shut. There was no sound. No sirens wailed outside my window. The world didn't tremble, but in the invisible digital realm, impenetrable walls were slamming down. At that very moment, my parents' bank accounts were being frozen. Their credit cards were being declined. Their assets were being flagged for seizure, pending a full investigation. I took a slow sip of wine. It tasted sharp and sweet. I slept better that night than I had in my entire 29 years. I woke up at 7 a.m. to the violent buzzing of my phone on the nightstand. It wasn't a text, it was a call. Caller ID DAD. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again immediately. Caller ID DAD. I got up, took a shower, and got dressed for work. I chose my favorite blazer. I put on lipstick. I looked in the mirror and saw a woman who was in control of her own life. I made coffee. I sat down at my kitchen table. The phone rang a third time. I picked it up. "Hello," I said, my voice perfectly calm. "Clara." My father's voice was unrecognizable. It was a high-pitched, strangled shriek. The audio was distorting. He was screaming so loudly. "Clara, what did you do?" "Good morning, Dad," I said serenely. "I'm just having some coffee. How are you? Don't you play games with me," he roared. "I'm at the bank. The card won't work. The teller is saying our accounts are frozen, all of them, even the joint account." "That sounds frustrating," I commented. "They're saying it's a fraud alert. They're saying we're under investigation for wire fraud and money laundering. They're talking about the police, Clara." I took another sip of coffee. "Well, Dad, you did transfer nearly $3 million from an account that didn't belong to you. That sort of thing tends to raise a few flags." "We told you," he screamed. "We told you we were doing it. It's family money." "No," I said, my voice firm. "It was my money. And I never signed anything. You ungrateful little—" He cut himself off, and I heard ragged, heavy breathing. "Fix this. Call the bank. Tell them it was all a mistake. Tell them you authorized it. Do it right now." "I can't do that," I said simply. "Why not?" "Because," I said, letting the words hang in the air, "I'm the one who reported it." A silence fell on the other end of the line, a silence so heavy it felt like it had its own gravity. "You... what?" "I reported the potential for unauthorized access 3 years ago," I explained calmly. I informed the bank that if anyone other than myself attempted to move that money, it was to be considered theft. You walked right into it. You set us up, he whispered, the sound barely audible. I protected myself, I corrected. Clara, listen to me. His voice shifted, the anger dissolving into raw terror. The branch manager is here. He's on the phone with the authorities. You have to stop this. If you don't stop this, they're going to arrest us. I looked out my window. The sun was shining. People were out walking their dogs. The world was moving on. I know, I said. You would send your own father to prison? He asked, his voice trembling. I thought about the empty shoebox. I thought about the lavender bicycle. I thought about the lonely Uber ride home from the hospital. You sent yourself to prison, Dad. I just supplied the evidence. I hung up the phone. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. It was pure adrenaline. It was finally, truly done. The collapse was underway. I placed my phone on the kitchen counter. It remained silent for exactly 3 seconds before it began vibrating uncontrollably. I didn't answer. I finished my coffee. I calmly washed the mug, dried it, and placed it back in the cupboard. These small, mundane actions felt incredibly significant. They were tangible proof that my world was still spinning on its axis, even as theirs was being consumed by fire. I left for work. Driving to the office, I felt a peculiar sensation in my chest. For as long as I could remember, I had lived with a heavy, dense knot in the pit of my stomach, the constant anxiety of waiting for the next demand, the next criticism, the next act of theft. Today, the knot was gone. In its place was a cold, sharp clarity. I arrived at my desk at 8:30 a.m. My phone showed 42 missed calls, 20 from my father, 12 from my mother, 10 from Chloe, and a cascade of text messages that painted a picture of escalating panic. 8:15 a.m. Mom, Clara, pick up the phone. This is a simple misunderstanding. 8:20 a.m. Mom, the bank manager is threatening to involve the FBI. You need to clear this up this instant. 8:32 a.m. Mom, how could you do this to us? We are your family. 8:45 a.m. Chloe, why is my credit card not working? I'm at a cafe and it was declined. Fix it. 8:50 a.m. Dad, pick up your phone or I'm coming down to your office. I read that last one and felt a familiar flicker of old fear. My father was a large, imposing man who used his physical presence as a tool of intimidation. The thought of him storming into my workplace, screaming at me in front of my colleagues, made my palms sweat. But then I remembered he couldn't come here. The security at my tech firm was ironclad. You needed a registered key card to get past the lobby. And at this very moment, my father was most likely being detained in a small office at his bank, struggling to explain why he had authorized a multi-million-dollar transfer from an account that was not his. I switched my phone to Do Not Disturb and placed it face down on my desk. At 10 a.m., the landline on my desk rang. I hesitated. Only internal colleagues ever used that line. But on rare occasions, if it was a declared emergency, the front desk would patch an outside call through. I picked it up. Clara Vance. Clara, it was my mother. Her voice wasn't screaming like my father's. It was worse. It was the high, breathless, quivering tone she used when she wanted to play the martyr. It was the voice she used to talk her way out of speeding tickets or to get a free dessert from a restaurant manager. Mom, I said, keeping my voice level and professional. You shouldn't be calling me at work. I had to trick your receptionist, she sobbed. I told her it was a medical emergency. Clara, you have to stop this insanity. Your father, they're holding him. Security at the bank. They won't let him leave until the police arrive. They're saying the transfer triggered a federal alert for money laundering. They think we're criminals. You committed a crime, Mom, I stated plainly. That does, in fact, make you criminals. We are your parents, she shrieked, the victim mask slipping for a second. We raised you. We fed you. We paid for your… Well, we let you live in our house for 18 years. How dare you call us criminals? You stole $2.9 million. We borrowed it. For Chloe, for your sister's future. Why do you have to be so selfish? You have a good job. You don't need all that money right now. Chloe has nothing. Chloe has nothing because she has never worked for anything in her life, I said. And neither have you. You've been living on debt and illusions for 20 years. That is not true. Your father is a respected businessman. Dad is a con artist, Mom. And now the entire world knows it. She went silent. Then her voice dropped to a low, dangerous whisper. If you don't fix this, Clara, if you let them arrest your father, you are dead to us. Do you understand me? We will never speak to you again. You will be an orphan. I closed my eyes. This was their ultimate weapon, the threat of abandonment. Do as we say, or we will withdraw our love. As a child, that threat had been my greatest fear. It made me scrub floors, surrender my savings, and apologize for things I hadn't done. I had craved their love, their approval so desperately. I just wanted to belong. But today, hearing those words over the phone while I sat in my ergonomic office chair, my framed degree hanging on the wall behind me, the threat felt hollow. Mom, I said softly, I haven't been your daughter for a very long time. I've just been your bank account. That's not… And now, I interrupted, the account is closed. I hung up the phone. I sat there for a long moment staring at the receiver. My heart was pounding, but I didn't cry. Leo, my coworker, rolled his chair over. His face was etched with concern. Everything okay, Clara? You look like you've seen a ghost. I looked at him. My family is having a very bad day. The fraud thing? He asked gently. Yeah, the fraud thing. Do you need to go? I shook my head. No, I'm exactly where I need to be. By lunchtime, the situation had escalated. I checked my personal email and found a notification from my real bank, the one holding the decoy account. Subject: Alert, Law Enforcement Inquiry. Body: Ms. Vance. We have received a subpoena regarding the activity on account number 8832. We are cooperating fully with the FBI Financial Crimes Division. It was happening even faster than I had anticipated, because the amount was so large and because my parents had funneled it directly into a newly formed business account, Chloe's LLC. It had all the hallmarks of a classic money laundering scheme. They looked like they were trying to wash dirty money. And because I had flagged the account years ago as a high-security asset, the system assumed I was the victim of a sophisticated cybercrime ring. My parents were no longer just fighting with me. They were now at war with the United States banking system. I went to the break room and ate a sandwich. It tasted like ash, but I forced myself to finish it. I needed my strength. At 2 p.m., Chloe called. I decided to answer this time. I wanted to hear it for myself. I wanted to know if she had any comprehension of what she had done. Clara? Her voice was small and trembling. Hi, Chloe. Dad is in handcuffs, she whispered. They put him in a police car right in front of the bank. Everyone was watching. A jolt of shock went through me. Handcuffs. It was really happening. Where are you? I asked. I'm at home with Mom. She's throwing up. She can't stop crying. Clara, they froze my account too. The business account. They said I'm an accessory. You signed the transfer request, Chloe. I saw the digital copy. Your signature is right there next to Dad's. Dad told me to, she wailed. He said it was all fine. He said you wouldn't mind. He said we would pay you back as soon as the business took off. When has Dad ever paid anyone back? I asked quietly. She had no answer. I could hear her ragged breathing on the other end. I'm scared, Clara. The officer said this could mean prison time, wire fraud, identity theft, grand larceny. It does, I said simply. Are you just going to let this happen? I'm not letting anything happen, I replied. It already happened. You did this. You went to the bank. You signed the document. You stole the money. I hate you, she hissed. I hope you die alone with all your money. I might be alone, I said, my voice surprisingly steady, but I'll be free. The line went dead. I put the phone down. The low hum of the office surrounded me, keyboards clacking, phones ringing, two people laughing down the hall. It was a perfectly normal Monday for the rest of the world. For my family, it was the apocalypse. And for the first time in my life, I felt no compulsion to rush in and save them. I just felt a deep, weary sadness. I left work at 6 p.m., taking the long way home. I needed the time to decompress. The sky was turning a deep bruised purple over the city skyline. As I pulled into my apartment complex, I saw a silver Mercedes parked haphazardly near the entrance. It was my mother's car, crookedly straddling two parking spaces as if it had been abandoned in a panic. My stomach clenched. I had braced myself for phone calls and angry texts. I hadn't anticipated a personal visit. My parents despised my apartment. They called it tiny and depressing because it wasn't a sprawling mansion like theirs. They never came here unless they wanted something. I thought about just driving away, checking into a hotel, going to a friend's house. No, I told myself firmly. This is my home. I am done running. I parked my car and walked towards the entrance. I could see her standing there, a silhouette against my front door. My mother, Helen Vance, was a woman who placed paramount importance on appearances. She never left the house without her hair sprayed into a perfect helmet, a full face of makeup, and her signature pearls. The woman banging on my door was a stranger. Her hair was wild, escaping its pins in frantic wisps. Black mascara had carved rivers down her cheeks. Her expensive silk blouse was untucked and wrinkled. She looked unhinged. She looked old. She was pounding on the solid wood of my door with her fist. "Clara, open this door. I know you're in there." A neighbor down the hall poked his head out, his expression a mixture of alarm and curiosity. "Mom," I said, my voice calm as I walked up the stairs. She spun around, her eyes wide and bloodshot. "You!" She lunged toward me. I took a quick step back, maintaining a safe distance. "Mom, stop! You're causing a scene." "A scene?" She laughed, a hysterical, broken sound. "My husband is in a holding cell. My daughter is being questioned by federal agents. And you're worried about a scene? Come inside," I said quietly, "before the neighbors call the police on you, too." I unlocked the door and she stormed past me into my small living room, pacing back and forth like a caged tiger. "You have to call them," she demanded, pointing a trembling finger at me. "Right now. You have to call the lawyer. You have to tell them you gave us permission." I placed my keys in the small bowl by the door. I took off my blazer. I wanted to project calm, to show her this was my territory. "I can't do that, Mom. Why not?" "Because you hate us?" "Because it's a lie," I said, "and because I'm done." She stopped pacing and just stared at me. Done with what? Done being the family resource to be exploited. Done being your retirement plan. Done being the emergency backup. She looked at me with an expression of genuine, profound confusion. "We love you, Clara." "No, you don't," I said. It wasn't an accusation. It was a simple statement of fact. "You love what I can do for you. You love that I'm responsible. You love that I have money, but you don't love me. How can you say that?" She started crying again, loud, ugly sobs. We gave you everything. We put a roof over your head. We raised you. You raised me to be a servant for Chloe, I countered. That's just jealousy speaking. Is it? I walked to my kitchen counter and poured a glass of water. Mom, on my 10th birthday, you gave my present to Chloe. When I was 16, you stole my life savings for her designer clothes. On the day I graduated from college, you didn't even show up because Chloe said she had a headache. Those are petty little things, she cried. You're holding on to grudges from childhood. And on my 29th birthday, I continued, my voice unwavering, you stole $2.9 million from me. It wasn't stealing. We were going to pay you back. With what? I asked. You have 3 mortgages on the house. Dad's credit cards are all maxed out. You haven't paid property taxes in 2 years. I know your financial situation, Mom. I ran a full credit check on you 6 months ago. She froze, her face going white. You spied on us? I had to, I said. I knew you were coming for my money. I knew how desperate you were. She sank onto my sofa, all the fight seeming to drain out of her. She looked small and defeated. We just wanted to maintain our lifestyle, she whispered. We've worked so hard, Clara. We deserve to live comfortably. And Chloe, she needs so much help. She isn't strong like you. She isn't strong because you crippled her, I said. You never let her fail. You never let her learn a single consequence. And now, she's about to learn the hardest lesson of all. She could go to prison, Mom whispered, her voice cracking. My baby could go to prison. She might, I conceded, and Dad might too. Mom looked up at me, her eyes pleading. And me? What about me, Clara? They're looking at my accounts too. They think I knew. Did you know? I asked. She hesitated, her gaze darting away. I signed as the witness on the bank transfer form, she admitted softly. I nodded slowly. Then you're involved. She stood up and walked toward me. She reached out and grabbed my hands. Hers were cold and clammy. Clara, please, I am begging you. On my knees. I will do anything. Just save us. Just this one last time. Save your family. I looked down at her. This was the woman who had spent my entire life criticizing my hair, my clothes, my job, my very existence. This was the woman who had watched me break down in tears and told me to stop being so dramatic. I felt a familiar tug deep in my chest, a deep, ancient instinct to fix it all, to be the good daughter, to make the pain go away. All I had to do was pick up the phone. I could hire the best lawyers. I could claim it was all a terrible misunderstanding. I could liquidate my fortune paying their fines and legal fees. I could save them. But if I did, I would lose myself. I would be their prisoner forever. They would know with absolute certainty that no matter what they did to me, I would always come to the rescue. I gently pulled my hands from her grasp. I can't save you, Mom, I said. Her face hardened. You mean you won't? I mean I won't. She stared at me for a long, silent moment. The sadness in her eyes curdled into something else, something cold and sharp, pure hatred. You are a monster, she spat. Maybe, I said, but I'm a monster with her own bank account. I have no daughter, she hissed. She turned and strode to the door. She grabbed the handle and then looked back at me one last time. I hope all that money keeps you warm at night, Clara, because you will have no one else. I'll buy a blanket, I replied. She slammed the door behind her. The sound echoed through the small apartment. I stood in the ringing silence. My legs felt weak, and I sank to the floor right there in the entryway. I took a deep, shuddering breath. I felt sick to my stomach. But she was gone, and for the first time in 29 years, she hadn't taken anything from me on her way out. I realized then the immense power of walking away without screaming. I hadn't raised my voice. I hadn't thrown things. I had simply spoken the truth and refused to yield. The calm was returning, but I knew this was only the beginning. The legal hurricane was just about to make landfall, and while I was safe on the shore, I would have to watch them drown. I got up, locked the door, and engaged the deadbolt. Click. It was the sound of my new life beginning. The day after my mother banged on my door, the world felt different. It was quiet. I woke up early, made my bed, and smoothed the sheets with my hands. I liked order. My life had been chaotic for 29 years because of my family. Now the chaos was outside my door, and inside my apartment was pristine. I went to work driving the same route, listening to the same news station. But I felt lighter. The oppressive weight I had carried in my chest since I was a girl, the fear of them, the obligation to them, was gone. At the office, the air was buzzing. People were whispering by the water cooler. When I walked in, the conversations would abruptly stop. I knew what it was about. I walked to my desk. Leo looked up, his usual smile absent. He looked worried. "Clara," he said, "have you seen the news?" "No," I said. "I don't watch the morning shows." "You might want to see this," he said, sliding his tablet across the desk. I looked down at the screen. It was a major news website. The headline was in bold black letters. "Prominent local couple and daughter investigated for multi-million-dollar banking fraud." Below the headline was a photograph from a charity gala a year ago. My parents, Robert and Helen, were flashing their practiced, perfect smiles, holding champagne flutes. My sister, Chloe, stood between them in a designer gown that cost more than my first car. They looked like American royalty. But the caption told a different story. Robert and Helen Vance, along with their daughter Chloe Vance, are under federal investigation for alleged wire fraud and money laundering involving over $2.9 million. I read the entire article. It detailed how the FBI's Financial Crimes Division had flagged a massive transfer from a secured account. It mentioned the transfer had been authorized using suspect credentials and that the funds were moved into a newly created business account registered to Chloe Vance, a business with no history, no reported income, and no employees. The article quoted an anonymous source from the bank. The speed and nature of the transfer triggered automatic anti-money laundering protocols. The account holder, a close family member, had previously flagged the account for high security monitoring. The account holder, me. I wasn't named. I was just the family member, the implied victim. I handed the tablet back to Leo. My hand was steady. "Wow," was all I said. Is this real?" Leo asked, hesitating. "Yes," I said. "It's real." "I'm so sorry, Clara," he said. "This must be so humiliating for you." I looked at the photo of my parents again. I looked at my mother's pearls and my father's silk tie. "No," I said. "It's not humiliating. It's the truth. They finally got their picture in the paper. It's all they ever wanted." I went back to work. Focusing was difficult, but I forced myself. I wrote code. I answered emails. I attended a meeting on server maintenance. I sat in a sterile conference room, listening to people discuss uptime and data packets, while my family's world burned to the ground. It felt surreal, like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. At lunch, I sat alone in my car and pulled up social media on my phone. I knew I shouldn't, but I couldn't resist. My mother's profile was usually a meticulously curated shrine to her perfect life. Photos of her prize-winning roses, elegant dinner parties, and, of course, Chloe. Now the comments section was a war zone. Neighbors and acquaintances had posted the news article. I always knew something was off about them. They lived way beyond their means. Another comment. Robert still owes me money for a consulting job from 3 years ago. I guess now I know why he never paid. And another, Helen was always so snobby at the garden club. Karma is a real thing. Then I saw one that made me pause. I feel bad for the other daughter, the quiet one. She never seemed to be part of their schemes. The quiet one, that was me, the background character. For years, it had hurt to be invisible. I had yearned for them to see me, to praise me the way they praised Chloe. But now, my invisibility was my salvation. Because I was the quiet one, my name wasn't in the headlines. Because I was the quiet one, no one was dragging my reputation through the mud. My silence had become my shield. I went home at 5 p.m., stopping to buy expensive Thai food on the way. I even bought extra spring rolls. It was a small act of rebellion. Usually I was frugal, always saving, always preparing for the next time they would need a bailout. Today, I spent $40 on dinner for one, and I didn't care. I sat on my couch and turned on the TV. The 6 p.m. news was just starting. Breaking news in the Vance scandal, the anchor said. And then I saw it. Video footage from outside the police station. My father was walking out, not in a suit, but in a wrinkled shirt, holding his hands up to shield his face from the flashing cameras. He looked terrified. My mother was behind him, wearing oversized sunglasses despite the evening gloom, clinging to his arm. She looked frail and small, and then there was Chloe. Chloe wasn't hiding. She was crying, screaming at the cameras. "Leave us alone. We didn't do anything. It's all a mistake. My sister will fix this." I froze, a spring roll halfway to my mouth. My sister will fix this. She had said it on national television. Even now, in the throes of an FBI investigation, she still believed it. She believed I was the family fixer. She believed I would swoop in with a magic wand and make all the consequences vanish. A cold, hard anger settled in my stomach. They didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a utility. I was like the electricity or the running water in their house. They only noticed me when I was turned off. The reporter continued, "The Vances have been released on bail pending further investigation. Their assets have been frozen, and the investigation is ongoing." I turned off the TV. The room went dark. I sat in the silence and finished my dinner. I thought about the last 10 years. I thought about the time I got a big promotion at work and called my dad, excited to tell him. He had cut me off to ask if I could lend Chloe $200 for concert tickets. I thought about the Christmas everyone got mountains of presents, and my gift from them was a free calendar from an insurance company. I thought about the time my car broke down on the highway and I called my mom. She couldn't come get me because she and Chloe were in the middle of watching a movie. I had walked 3 miles in the rain to a gas station. I looked at the blank TV screen. "I'm not fixing it, Chloe," I whispered to the empty room. My phone started buzzing with notifications from people I hadn't spoken to since high school. "OMG, Clara, is that your family on the news? Are you okay?" "I saw Chloe on TV. She looks nuts." I didn't reply. I turned my phone off. I would not participate in the drama. That was their trap. If I defended them, I was complicit. If I attacked them, I looked bitter and vengeful. The only way to win was not to play their game. I went to the window and looked out at the parking lot. I noticed a dark sedan parked across the street. It hadn't been there before. It could have been nothing, or it could have been a reporter. I closed the blinds. My parents had spent their lives chasing the spotlight. They wanted the big house, the luxury cars, the status. They wanted everyone to look at them. Well, now everyone was looking, and the attention was destroying them. I lay down on my bed, feeling a profound exhaustion. But it wasn't the exhaustion of stress. It was the exhaustion of relief. It was the feeling you get after a long, grueling hike when you can finally take off your heavy boots. I realized something important that night. I hadn't just trapped them. I had revealed them. I hadn't planted fake evidence or framed them for a crime they didn't commit. All I had done was leave a door unlocked and watch them willingly walk through it. They were the ones who chose to steal. They were the ones who chose to forge my signature. They were the ones who chose greed over family. I fell into a deep, sound sleep. 3 days after the news broke, Chloe called. It was late, past midnight. I was in bed reading when the phone rang. I knew it was her. My parents were too proud to call again after the confrontation at my apartment. They were likely busy with their lawyers, weaving a narrative that painted me as the villain. But Chloe was different. Chloe was weak. She couldn't stand the silence. I looked at the screen. Chloe. I considered not answering. I could block her number, change my own. But I needed to hear it. I needed to know if there was any piece of my sister left, or if she was now just a carbon copy of our mother. I swiped to answer. Hello, Chloe. You ruined my life. Her voice wasn't tearful this time. It was cold and slurred, as if she'd been drinking. I didn't ruin your life, Chloe, I said calmly. I saved my own. You set a trap, she screamed, her voice distorting the phone's speaker. Mom told me everything. You put that money there on purpose. You knew we would take it. You wanted us to take it. I put my money in a bank account under my name, I said. I operated under the assumption that since it was my name on the account, my own family would respect that. Is it a trap to leave your own property in your own bank? You knew, she yelled. You knew we needed it. You knew Dad was drowning in debt. You dangled it in front of us like a carrot. I didn't dangle it, I said. I protected it. And you proved exactly why I needed to. I'm going to lose everything, she said, her voice cracking as the anger gave way to panic. The FBI seized my laptop, my phone. They froze the LLC account. Clara, I can't even buy groceries. I have nothing. You never had anything, Chloe, I said, the words sharp but true. Everything you've ever had was given to you by Mom and Dad, and everything they had was either borrowed or stolen. That's not true. I'm a business owner. You're a fraud, I said. You signed a document claiming that money was yours. You signed a wire transfer authorization. Do you even understand what that means? It was just a piece of paper, she sobbed. Dad put it in front of me and said, "Sign here, princess." So I signed it. I didn't read it. I never read the papers. I closed my eyes. I know. That was the real tragedy of Chloe. She had been meticulously trained to be helpless. She was a doll, and dolls don't read contracts. Dolls just smile and sign their names. They used you, Chloe, I said softly. What? Mom and Dad, they used you. They put the money in your business account, not theirs. Do you know why? There was only silence on the line. Because if they had put it directly into their accounts, the IRS would have seized it immediately for back taxes. They made you the fall guy, Chloe. They made you their accomplice. No, she whispered. Daddy wouldn't do that. He loves me. He loves himself, I said. And he loves money. You were just the most convenient path to getting it. She started crying again, a pitiful, broken sound. Clara, please, I'm so scared. The lawyer said I could go to prison, not just a fine, real prison, for 3 to 5 years. A lump formed in my throat. 3 to 5 years. My little sister in a prison cell. It was a genuinely horrible thought. I can't fix this, Chloe, I said. The evidence is overwhelming. You signed the document. The money trail leads directly to you. You spent $5,000 of it in the first hour on designer handbags. The paper trail is airtight. But you could drop the charges, she begged. If you just tell them it was a misunderstanding, that you gave me permission verbally. Then I would go to jail, I said, for filing a false report and for perjury. You're smart. You'd figure a way out. You're Clara, you always get out of trouble. I get out of trouble because I don't break the law, I said. I am not going to become a criminal to save you from the consequences of being one. You hate me, she said bitterly. You've always been jealous of me. Jealous? I laughed, a dry, humorless sound. Chloe, look at us. Right now, I am sitting in my paid-for apartment, drinking tea, with a fully funded retirement account and a clean criminal record. You are drunk, broke, and facing multiple federal charges. What exactly would I be jealous of? Because Mom and Dad love me, she shrieked. They love me more, they always have. Even now, they're worried sick about me. They're not worried about you, I know, I said. And that's why I'm free, and that's why you're trapped. Trapped? You're trapped in their love, Chloe. Their love is poison. It eats you alive. It made you completely incapable of taking care of yourself. It made you a criminal. Shut up, she screamed. Shut up! You're just trying to make me feel bad. I'm trying to make you see the truth. I don't want your truth, she yelled. I want my money. I want my life back. You stole it from me. I took back what was always mine, I said. Goodbye, Chloe. Don't you hang up on me. Clara, if you hang up on me, I swear to God. I pulled the phone from my ear and pressed the red button, ending the call. I sat there in the profound quiet of my bedroom. My heart was racing. That was the hardest thing I had ever done. Walking away from her was more difficult than walking away from my parents. My parents were predators. Chloe was just prey that they had mistaken for a pet. I felt a deep, aching sadness for her. She was 27 years old, but emotionally, she was still 7. A child in a woman's body, wandering into a minefield. But I couldn't carry her out. If I tried, the mine would detonate and take us both down. I put my phone on the nightstand. I thought about her comment about jealousy. Was I jealous? I used to be. I used to wish I was the pretty one, the one they bought ponies and trips to Paris for. But looking at the smoldering wreckage of her life, I realized their neglect had been a strange, unintentional gift. Because they ignored me, I learned to cook for myself. Because they ignored me, I learned how to budget. Because they ignored me, I learned how to solve my own problems. Because they ignored me, I was forced to become an adult. They had loved Chloe so much that they destroyed her. They had ignored me so much that they had saved me. It was a bizarre, painful irony. The bad parenting had produced the successful child, and the good parenting had produced the criminal. I turned off the lamp, and the darkness of the room felt like a comforting blanket. I knew the saga wasn't over. The legal process would drag on. There would be court dates and more news articles. But the emotional cord had been severed. Chloe had chosen her side. She had chosen the fantasy over the reality. She had chosen the parents who lied to her over the sister who told her the truth. That was her choice. And this silence, this safety, this peace, this was mine. I closed my eyes and let myself drift off to sleep. Tomorrow, I would go to work. I would pay my bills. I would walk in the park. I would live my life. And for the first time, that life belonged 100% to me. No family tax. No tithe to the altar of the Vance family ego. Just me, Clara Vance, free. 2 days later, my phone rang with a blocked number. I knew who it was. My mother had screamed. My sister had begged. There was only one voice left to hear. I answered. Hello. It's over, Clara. My father's voice was old and hollow. It wasn't the booming voice of the man who commanded boardrooms. It was the voice of someone who had been shouting at walls for days. and finally realized the walls weren't going to move. I know, I said. The lawyer says we have no defense, he said, his voice flat. The digital footprint is undeniable. They have the server logs, the IP addresses. They even have security footage of Chloe withdrawing cash from the LLC account. I told you the system was secure, Dad. You didn't listen. You set us up, he said. But there was no anger in it this time, just a dull, gray defeat. You knew we'd do it. You left the door open and just waited. I didn't make you walk through it, I replied. I just stopped locking the door because I knew you were thieves. Honest people don't walk into open vaults. He sighed, a heavy, wet sound. We're going to lose the house. The government is seizing assets to pay the restitution and fines. They're taking the cars. They're taking your mother's jewelry. That's how the law works, I said. What's going to happen to us? He asked. It was a question a small child asks a parent. I don't know, I said. That will be up to a judge. You could help with the legal fees, he tried one last weak gambit. You have the money. No, I said. Why? Because you taught me a valuable lesson, Dad. You taught me that money is the most important thing in the world. You taught me to protect it at all costs, even from family. A long silence stretched between us. I made you this way, he whispered. Yes, I said. You did. I have no daughter, he said. But it lacked the venom my mother had delivered. It just sounded like a statement of resignation. You never did, I replied. You just had an ATM. He hung up. I sat in my living room as the sun set, casting long orange shadows across the floor. I felt a strange sensation in my chest. It wasn't happiness. It wasn't sadness. It was just quiet. The storm had finally passed. A week later, the story hit the national news. Florida socialites charged in million-dollar family fraud scheme. I walked into work, and Leo slid a folded newspaper across my desk. He didn't say a word, just gave me a look that said, I've got your back. I looked at the front page. There was a photo of my father being led into a courthouse, hiding his face with a folder. My mother was trailing behind him, staring at the ground. They look small, I said. Guilt shrinks people, Leo replied. 6 months later, the trial was over. My father took a plea deal, 2 years in a minimum security prison for wire fraud. My mother received probation and community service. Chloe got a suspended sentence, but she now had a permanent criminal record. Her sham business was gone, her reputation in tatters. I was sitting in a coffee shop reading when I saw her walk by. She looked different. The designer clothes were gone, replaced by simple jeans and a plain t-shirt. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She looked tired, but she also looked older, more grounded. She saw me through the window, hesitated for a moment, and then walked in. She stood by my table. Hi, she said. Hi, I replied. I didn't offer her a seat. I'm working at a bakery now, she said. Minimum wage. That's honest work, I said. It's hard, she admitted. My feet hurt all the time. Welcome to the real world, I said, my tone gentle. She looked at me, her eyes watery. Mom and Dad, they blame you for everything. They talk about you every day. They hate you. I know, I said. I don't hate you, she whispered. I did, for a while. But I'm learning. I'm learning that nobody is coming to save me. That's the most important lesson you'll ever learn, I told her. Can you help me? She asked. Not with money, just advice. How do I start over? I reached into my bag and pulled out a small business card for a women's financial literacy program I volunteered with. Go here, I said. They teach free classes on budgeting, saving, and building credit. She took the card, looking at it like it was a solid gold bar. Thank you, she said. Don't thank me, I said. Do the work. She nodded and walked away. I watched her go. I felt no urge to run after her, no instinct to fix her life. She was on her own path now. I finished my coffee and walked out into the bright sunshine. My phone buzzed. It was a notification from my bank. Interest deposit, $12,000. I smiled. My money was safe. My heart was quiet. I had lost a family that never truly loved me, but in the process, I had found the woman they had tried so hard to erase. I walked down the street, my head held high. Peace, I realized, pays a much higher interest rate than revenge ever could. And I was finally rich in both.